Yeah, I believe in you. I don't believe in lucky sevens. I'm not sure about Loch Ness, but I know I believe in angels. I believe in happiness.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so excited. I have a really brilliant actor connected with us this evening, and we are going to get to him in just a moment. But first, we do a news segment every Monday at 7 p.m., and they're always so different. I have our financial advisor on from Vistafront Partners, and he does a great job with educating us about everything we need to know from SEPs, IRAs, to Social Security, and even to creating a will. What do you need to look at financially? Taxes, this, that, and the other. He's such a wealth of information. But we always talk about some news pieces too. And what I like to find is a little bit more of the zany stuff. Like I want to get from the if it bleeds, it leads. And I found a couple articles. I'm going to bring it into this show a little bit too in my intro here. Arizona opened up a museum as if we need that. But it teaches science using fossil feces. The variety of dung on display ranges from minuscule termite droppings to a massive specimen that weighs 20 pounds. So if you're interested in poop, go on over to Arizona while you're traveling for summer vacation to the museum. I mean, isn't it great? There's so much news out there that can make you giggle, can make you smile. And that's really where longevity is, isn't it? Just how we handle all the little things. Now, this lady, I'd have to say this is not a plan for anybody out there that's single and you go out on dates and you're looking for that backup plan. If the date's really not going well, don't do what she did. Woman arrested for calling cops to get out of a date with a man she met online. And I read the headline and I'm like, well, what in the world did she say? A woman was arrested for falsely reporting a crime after she called the cops and fabricated a story in order to get out of her first date. Like, no, please don't do that. I mean, have your girlfriend call you and say Fluffy is sick and you just politely bow out if you have to, right? All right, everybody, I hope you're enjoying your summer. It's nice and hot here in Atlanta, and our guest tonight is connected from Los Angeles. The one thing I loved about being in Los Angeles was that the weather's just always nice, always so nice. Now, I know that they've had more rain in the past couple of years than they did when I was there, but man, they don't get the 98% humidity on a 102-degree day that we do. And then in the evening, it's like we live in the desert. It goes back down to 70. It's like always this 30-degree swing no matter what. But anyway, from Australia, I have Johnny Austen connected with us. And he just wrapped on a project called Broke AF, directed by Martin DeBauer. Currently being shopped out for network distribution. This episodic is a calamity of two brothers paired with a trust fund baby trying to get by in Los Angeles. Right there, I want to watch it because there's so many different ways that you can take that story and put in perfect actors like Johnny Austen. He has been in many other projects. He has also migrated here and is now residing in Los Angeles. And I want to know about that culture shock, don't you, of moving from Australia to Los Angeles. What are the similarities and what are the differences? And here to tell us this evening is Johnny Austen. How are you doing tonight, Johnny?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. So, as I was saying about the weather, I mean, let's just pick like a porch side, sitting in the rocking chairs kind of conversation to open it up, right? What's the weather like there today?
It is scorching at the moment. We're currently experiencing a heat wave, and it's like you said, it goes from way too hot to absolutely freezing when nighttime comes.
Wow.
And where I'm from in Sydney, it gets aggressively humid and hot, so it's a dry heat's nice. It's a decent change, but yeah, I mean right. I've had before I came on, I had my AC on for about 2 hours trying to cool down everything. So
wow, scorchingly hot. See, I was there when it was just perfect. You know, that 70 to almost like it tries to touch 80, but it never gets to 80. It's just so perfect, man. So it's scorchingly hot. All right, the weather has changed in the past couple of years because I haven't been living out there since 2016. So now that's getting to be a while ago. But speaking about living in places, now you are Australian.
yes.
And you're living in Los Angeles, as you know, I had already said. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, you really have to love what you're doing to pick up and leave family, friends, you know, people that you know, places that you know, to come to a completely different country. Can you tell me a little bit about where your passion for acting came from and how'd you get started and then the move?
Um, that's actually a question I get a lot about where it came from, and I sort of can't answer it. I, at around the age of 4, started telling my family like, "Hey, I'd like to be an actor. That sounds fun." And I have no family in the arts at all. And initially, my mother said, "No chance in hell." And after being stubborn as I am, I kept saying, "No, this is what I want to do. I really want to do this." And they finally said, "Go for it." And I've now been training and working for 15 years, a bit longer actually, 17 years now. So way too long.
Wow.
And it's just sort of, if there is a God, it's why they put me here. It's what I crave to do.
Oh, I love
Uh,
that. So tell me a little bit about your working visa. What is the process of being able to move from one country to the United States to then be allowed to work? Because isn't there a period of time where you're residing here, but you're still not really allowed to work?
yeah, I was very lucky. I came here for university. I got into a performing arts school in LA called AMDA, the American Music and Dramatic Academy. A very good school. I met some incredible teachers that helped cap off my education. But yeah, so I initially came out here on what's called a E3 visa. It's an Australian specific visa that is for working professionals. I had family who moved over on the E3, so I was able to become a dependent on that, which allowed me to attend university. And then I switched over to the F1, the student visa. I am currently, because I graduated last year, I'm currently on the F1 extension, which allows you to spend a year working in your industry, which has a whole host of separate problems with it. And I just today started my application process for the O1 acting visa. So it's been chaotic, and
Wow.
it's a lot of paperwork. I've had to fly back home multiple times already to go to various embassies, and it's a pain, but immigrating is always going to be a pain. If you were to move to Australia, it would be just as painful. But it's worth it. I moved here, and I didn't expect to fall in love with America as much as I have. So,
Oh, well, that's nice to hear. I mean,
yeah.
I haven't been to Sydney, but I have friends that have, and they say, you know, the reverse of that. They say, "Oh my God, I moved to Sydney in a heartbeat. It's so beautiful. The people are lovely. They're so kind. They're so nice." And that's really nice. So, have you been able to travel elsewhere in the United States?
Yeah, I bit of a crazy story. So I moved to New York in 2020, like 6 weeks before the pandemic started, and so I've traveled a lot to the US throughout my life. Growing up, my family would come here every year, like a lot of Australians do. And yeah, so I got to experience pandemic New York, which was actually my favorite New York. Um, there was no one there. I became really good friends with some bar owners. I got to experience Times Square, snow-covered, completely empty, which was, I mean, don't get me wrong, the pandemic was absolutely horrid, and I was stuck indoors, and it was hell, but witnessing Times Square all lit up, and you're the only person there. It's heavy snow. There's nothing like it. And then I moved to LA in 2021. Yeah, 2021 on New Year's Eve. And it was, I mean, I couldn't imagine living in any other city. It's just, I like how do I best describe this? I have trouble with New York because I constantly hear people like, oh, it's the greatest city in the world, and there's no city like it. And it's like, no, it's like any functioning city in any country. Sydney is similar. But moving to LA, I like the honesty of people who live here. It's like, what's LA like? Kind of garbage, but I love it. And
yeah,
that's how I feel. It's dumpster fire I have chosen, and I love it.
Yeah, that's the most honest description, and I get it. I mean, New York City was my city where I grew up. I grew up in northern New Jersey, right across the river from the city, so that was my city. And we're very proud. We're very proud of our city. But yeah, I love that. I love that description that you just gave us. Now, you're surrounded by beautiful instruments.
Yes.
So you play guitar, both acoustic and electric?
I play a bit more than that. My parents wanted me and my older brother to be jack of all trades. So I play. I'm going to apologize for the Lego box in the background. I thought it'd be nice decoration. I play 12-string on the right. I've got an acoustic. This is my jazz guitar from when I played jazz for a couple years. I wasn't very good at it. And then behind me is a beautiful bass guitar. I have in my living room. I didn't want to bring it out because it's heavy and a pain to lift. I've got a beautiful keyboard with weighted keys. I taught myself piano.
Wow.
What else? I sing. That's not an instrument you can see, but I sing. And yeah, and so I got a bunch of amps. I shipped all my instruments from Australia here. I thought it's been useful so far. In university, the final year of my degree was all about creating your own content and making your own art. And I went, well, I'm going to do everything. So I wrote music with it. And I don't know, it's come in handy. I get to feel around. Wow. And also helps my two roommates. One of them is like an opera trained singer. And so very periodically we'll play a bit of music together. She steals my instruments to play. And it's been, I mean, you've lived around artists. We all do a bit of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. So going back to the pandemic, I mean, with all those abilities, you sing, you taught yourself how to play piano, keyboard, all the different instruments that you know how to use. Did you create content during the pandemic?
Yeah, in a way. I was one of the people who started university on Zoom. I was one of the Zoom kids, and yeah, so during class, I would while listening to teachers. I'm a bit. My brain is always on the fritz, so my hands have to be moving all the time. I learn piano as I'm not involved directly in the class, and I started a Twitch channel, which has been deleted off the internet as I got more serious into university and the workload got heavier, where I would stream for hours and I would say to whoever was watching, like, give me a song, I'll learn it live. And I started, I would, because it's not here, it's in my living room. I have a bunch of like loop pedals and a whole setup where I would learn the bass, the guitar, the piano parts, and then play the whole song, learn it over, I think the longest song ever took me was 20 minutes. And then I would loop every instrument on top of each other and sing it. to varying levels of quality. One guy asked me to do the Land Down Under, that Men at Work song.
Yeah.
Which was quite a joy. It was awesome to do. There's a beautiful musician called Nick Cave. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's popular in Europe, and I would learn how to play his songs like Red Right Hand and Jubilee Street, I think was the one. But I would do the bass parts and the electric guitar parts and the piano parts, and it was during the beginning of the pandemic. It was a great way to deal with it.
Wow. And you sound like a lot of fun to hang out with. I mean, you've got to have a ton of friends. Was it pretty easy to make friends and have acquaintances from city to city that you've been living in here?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird at university because I was one of the only Australians there. Everyone would know me, and I mean, I think my graduating class was like 200 people, maybe 300 people. So I didn't know everyone, but it was quite easy. I mean, it helped that I was in my community proper for the first time. So I mean, as you would know, when your friend group are artists, they fly across the world and across the country, so they come in and out of your lives. But I have never been lacking for friends. It's been lovely.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. Now, I have some of your known for projects scrolling across the bottom, and I want to ask you about which one do you like the most, or which one's the most interesting that you'd like to tell us about. So these are already out and distributed and done and produced and everything. The Man Who Heard Root, that was 2022. The Tales of, I'm trying to read this, Solanum
tuberosum. I know exactly.
Thank you. I don't do Latin very much. The Death of Caesar, Proof of Concept, 2023. And Knick Knack Paddywhack, 2023. Which one would you say is the most interesting, or that you were able to submerge yourself into the most?
I mean, I think the first two, before we get into the pilot I was just in, I think the first two are interesting. Those are projects I made alongside a lot of the artists I have been lucky enough to work with. Like I said before, my final year of university was about creating your own content. And back in Australia, I did about 8 years of writing, performing, and producing absurdist theatre. So I could given this opportunity to make whatever I wanted. And when you tell someone who created absurdist theatre, that's the dream. And instead of what everyone else was doing, where they were making short films about various things, partying, drug abuse, etc., I found potatoes and I started doing potato puppetry, and where they were voice acted on, they had faces drawn on them, and that's what I did. So The Man Who Heard Root was a project where I was in a filmmaking class, and I wrote this really in-depth script from this poem, which is one of the last pre-Christianization of England poems. The last one we had. It inspired Lord of the Rings. It's called The Wanderer. It's beautiful. The ending's a bit rushed, but that is what it is. And I wrote this beautiful script, and 2 weeks before it was due, the teacher said, "That's garbage." And I immediately freaked out, went home, found a sack of potatoes, and wrote a project where I chop one in half. They organize a funeral, plan to kill the flesh god, which was me, and then they proceed to crush me to death. Because there was a 5-minute minimum, there is 2.5 minutes of potatoes falling in slow motion, which you'd think would get boring, but was incredibly hilarious. And yeah, and so that's sort of taken me down this endless path of trying to do potato puppetry, which leads me into, I'm sorry, I'm nerding out at the moment, I apologize.
No, it's okay.
So The Tales of Solanum tuberosum, The Death of Caesar, is a project I have been working on with writer Maegan McConnell, who wrote the pilot. I just filmed her writing partner, who also wrote the pilot, Heather Wood, has also been helping along the way, along with a bunch of other artists like John Thomas, who got a regional Emmy for his voice acting work, Barry Finnegan, who did Weekend at Jesus's, which is a really funny short film that did well in film festivals. And we're trying to do a biopic, a very serious biopic, but as historical as possible, about the assassination that killed Caesar, all on miniature sets with potatoes puppeted, and it's been a joy. I did an initial proof of concept at the end of university with the help of some of the artists, and I am proud of it because it proved I could do it. It's not something I'd show a lot of people. And right now in my living room is in pieces, an 8-foot by 6-foot Roman villa in multiple cardboard boxes that I spent way too much money getting made. And hopefully by the mid of July, we'll be doing the official proof of concept, which is I think it's going to be 7-minute scene detailing what the project would be, which is very tonally serious. You're dealing with a very serious topic. I mean, I'm surrounded by books about the subject, so if I keep looking around, it's me grabbing information. But like, one thing that isn't commonly taught is Brutus, it was believed at the time, was Caesar's son, because his mother was Caesar's mistress about the time he was born.
Okay.
And it's a story about like sons killing fathers, and how best friends will turn on a man because he overstepped and was willing to destroy the democracy they live under, while also being potatoes, dressed up and voice acted. And we have a moment which we've planned out where they drink from some wine, but it splashes on their face because they're potatoes and don't have lips. And that's going to be a joy to do. Like I said before, I've spent way too much money on it so far, but it's worth it. It's going to look. I wish I had video on my computer to show. The set looks incredible. So.
Wow. I mean, all I'm thinking about is Monty Python. And then I'm looking at you and I'm going, he looks kind of like a really young John Cleese.
I appreciate that.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. So that particular project, that's the death of Caesar?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's what we're looking for, is the death of Caesar. When do you think you'll release it? Like, how long do you think that's going to take to be able to film? And then there's a lot of editing to that, right? To get the potatoes in there.
I think it's going to take us about 2 days to film. Very quick, because we're going to do day one is we're all going to come together. I believe in collaborative art, where just because it's been my idea until I brought it to others, it's no longer anymore.
Correct.
We're going to do the first day where, because all of us have a bit of experience in puppetry. I did about a year of puppetry in Australia. Our first day is planning the shoots, playing with the set. None of us have used this set before. And then once we have all the shots planned, we can come in the next day, fresh minds, fresh heads, and get it done quickly. We've already done all the voice acting. We've sort of done everything so far. So the editing process is going to be simple. I don't see why it would be difficult. So yeah, the hope is we will shoot mid-July, finish shooting 2 days after we start, and the edit should come together quickly. And then we'll be shopping it around, because to get the full thing made is going to cost way too much money. I think the current estimate is, we need 30 sets, about $5,000 a set. So you're looking at like $200,000 to make the whole thing. It'll be a film. It's going to be a big, beautiful thing. But, shopping around and going, you like history, you like educational content. The educational content online is a big industry. One of the YouTube channels I was doing for research to see how much of an audience we could potentially have has something like 30 billion views. 30
billion.
I know. Why?
That is is that, and then to think of that, how much is that in money and just being able to, oh my God, that's
Hopefully enough to recoup the amount of money we'll be putting into it.
absolutely.
But no, it's my mother's a teacher, so educational content has been my life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you do a bunch of potato puppets, who's not going to listen? It's a little weird, but weird is what I do.
That is so cool. I can't wait until that's finished. I get to watch it. I cannot wait. You have no idea. It's like when there's, I don't want to call it random, but it is random, right? When there's a new random, just different content out there, it's like, yes, we want to see it. We want to see something new. And, not to knock any projects or anything like that, but, and I'm not going to name any names, but it seems like when we turn on the TV or whatever we watch, streaming, whatever everybody's watching, because there's so many different ways that we can watch content now. And it's the same cookie cutter storyline with a different title, with different actors, but it's still like the same thing. I just can't watch it, I mean, it becomes so monotonous, and this is so different. I can't wait. I can't wait. So, all right, now let's move on to Broke AF. Tell me a little bit about that project. Who were you in the project? What can we expect?
Oh God, this project is just. I before we get into the full project, I just want to say I've seen some of the clips from the first cut. I haven't seen the full one yet. My God, is it funny? Oh, when we did the reading with the full cast like a week before we shot, I have never seen a script where every joke landed, and it was just. I mean, I knew Maegan and Heather were great writers, but seeing that was a joy and a half. So I play a character called Drew, who is a mall Santa 2 months out of the year, and is attempting to be a professional gamer. He lives with his stepsister, who has a chip on her shoulder. She is angry at the whole world, sort of hates the concept of people entirely. And in the pilot, she meets Molly, who is a bit of a ditzy trust fund baby, and they strike up what ends up being a beautiful friendship. And the series is going to follow the misadventures of those three. And it's just it was just a joy. We had the director Martin DeBoer, who is an actor. He's a stunt man. He's actually a Benedict Cumberbatch's stunt double in all the Marvel films.
Wow.
Yeah. We would play this game where we would sit there and just get him talking about his career, and he would say, "Oh, I've worked with this incredibly famous person," and we're like, "Martin, of course you did." I got to work with him because he's transitioning into directing, and he is an incredible director. Working with him was mind blowing. He truly knows how to speak the language of actors because he is one. Mm-hmm. I worked with him on a spec commercial. God, what must have been 8 months ago, and we're doing this incredible shoot in the middle of the desert, like 3 hours north of LA, and they're doing the stunt driving section, and I see him and he's putting on a vest. I'm like, "What are you going to do, Martin?" He's like, "I'm going to strap myself to the car and shoot the whole thing." And so I witnessed in the desert this incredibly complex stunt driving session, and he just strapped himself onto the side of it. So he was directing Broke AF, and again, he just understood the script innately and was able to get these comedic moments. I got to work with an actor whose last name I do not want to mess up, Brandon Joseph, who plays Molly's TikTok influencer boyfriend, sort of a bit of a narcissist. He is the sexiest man on the planet. I got to be in a scene with him. He was so funny. I don't know how else to put it than that. Like he just understood the mission of his character.
Yeah.
He sort of flirted with everybody in the scene, and it's just incredible. The actress that plays my stepsister, Maegan, who's also one of the writers, if you meet her, she is the nicest woman on the planet. I've never seen her get angry, and I've tried to get her angry before. And she perfectly plays this incredibly cynical, aggressive, hungry woman trying to survive in LA. I still can't believe we got to do it. That's how I feel. I still can't believe. I just watched a scene with them last night where Addie, Maegan, my character's stepsister, and Molly try to get her stuff from her apartment, and I was in stitches. Like, it was just perfect. So
that just makes the time fly by. I mean, you could be doing a really long day on set, but if you're having a great time and everybody's so, I mean, they just get it. They're so into their character and it all flows so well. It's just a joy. I mean, it's play. It's like so great. I love that. I do have a question though. So in your opinion, what makes a great director? Is it how he talks to you? Is it personality? You know, they never get mad. Like, what is it?
I think it's a lot of things. I was taught that anger is just another expression of love. So Martin never got angry at us, but you could tell when he was getting. We were doing 14-hour shoot days, so you could tell when things were getting heated. But it's just a director who both understands the material very clearly and is able to communicate to actors the way we're taught to act. And I think, and I know this is common with a lot of directors, but I think it's good when directors have done acting. Not actors, but no, they don't need to be actors by trade. But like Martin would sit there and I'd be doing the scene and he'd call cut and he'd go, Johnny, I need this. And he'd express it exactly as I need to hear it. And it's not complicated. It's just, we did a section where in one of the scenes, it's one of the big scenes in the climax, my character Drew doesn't have much to say. It's a lot of just his reactions. And we're doing a long day, and I just went, hey, why don't I just sit there? Because we didn't have to do the scene for a 400th time. You just tell me to do what you need me to do, and we'll get the shots. And he goes, that's exactly right. And it was probably our quickest shoot of the day. Because he would go, Jim, this is what I need from you, expresses it perfectly the way I'm trained to understand. And I do it. And it was incredible. But he also had this beautiful, and this is what I think all good directors need, he had this energy that kept us motivated. Like, again, we were doing 14-hour days. All the actors were sleeping maybe 3 hours a night. I would, during lunch, quickly smash all my food, find some concrete, and pass out for half an hour. Like, we're overtired. But his joy and his energy kept us motivated. And this beautiful communication skill that he has, where all of us were working like a very fine oiled machine, cast and crew alike. And don't get me started on the crew. The crew are incredible. But yeah, I think that's what makes it's communication, energy, knowledge of what actors need to hear, and also knowledge of what the crew needs to hear. I don't think there was a moment where we were majorly behind schedule like a lot of shoots do, because he was on it. I mean, I don't really know where to go up from there. I mean, it's just he understood us.
Right.
And it was lovely. It was. I keep saying it was lovely. There's nothing else I could say. Like there wasn't a bad moment.
You're painting a beautiful picture, and yeah, you know, I get it. Like, I can see it. It's definitely a mixture of personalities. Like, I'm hearing that you have to be open and directable as well. As a director has to know how to be able to tell you what to do exactly, but not sound condescending, not sound bossy. You know, there's a very interesting line to walk there. And as well as keeping your energy up. So as you mentioned, 14-hour shoot days, I mean, those are long days. And when you do them in succession, because generally you're going to shoot as much as you possibly can, as not necessarily as fast as you can, but you only have those locations for a certain amount of time. So
Exactly.
you have to, you know, a lot of times do those long hours. But for you, Johnny, what do you do to try to solidify yourself in having enough energy? Like you said, when you're shooting back to back like that, you only get a couple hours of sleep at night. You had mentioned that, you know, you pass out and take a nap wherever you can, whenever you can. But there's a lot of people out there that maybe would want to break into the industry and see. We only know what we know. And
Yeah.
what we see on TV is like these actors that live in Los Angeles and they go to these great parties and they're always party. And it's like, that's not the real world. Like, this is an actual job. If you want to be a professional, you've got to be a professional. So what do you do in your professional life to just to keep your energy up? Like, is it food? Is it sleeping beforehand?
It's a combination of a whole bunch of things.
Okay.
I was lucky that the whole cast got along really well, and we got along with the crew. When the whole team is enjoying each other's company, it's really easy to go, I'm just going to push through. I mean, and I know you know this, but for anyone watching who doesn't know, there's a thing in acting circles where you talk about stage health, where for whatever reason, you could be as sick as a dog, but when you're up to perform, your body just gets that burst and you're fine. And so it's a combination of stage health. I got very sick after we shot because of running myself ragged. But stage health pushed through. We had beautiful meals every single day that helped keep us invigorated. My naps really helped.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, even when we were exhausted, being able to look to my scene partners and the knowledge that we are drained to the bone, but we're still having a good time. It's just having that personal strength and willingness to go give it my all.
Yeah.
And it's relying on a lot of training. I mean, I used to think theater was the toughest endurance an actor can do, but 14-hour days where you just have to be on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the willingness to let yourself be on and trust your training.
Right.
I mean, like I said before, I've been training for I'm 6, I'm 23 now, 17 years. That's the correct maths. And it's just relying on your training to do well. And we were again, combined with everything else, we just were capable of doing it. And I have no doubt there were some pretty horrid takes in there. I know personally, I was doing a scene with, I know his first name is Mark. I'm trying to find his second name. He plays the eccentric neighbor who is actually based on one of the writer's old landlords, who, a man with a heart of gold, but clearly is just off his rocker. I was so drained. It was a bit unprofessional of me. He says one of these hilarious lines, which I'm not going to spoil. And he sits down and he looks at me with such sincerity and joy and inquisitiveness that I broke entirely. And I had to be like, we got to do that again. I can't look at you, Mark, as you're doing this. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. I got too into it. But yeah, it's just relying on your training and the willingness to push through. And I think we're very lucky that none of us broke. And because you can. I remember on my first day coming back, I've never done this before. I passed out sitting on the couch as I got home. Like, but you got to be up. You got to be up the next day ready to go.
Absolutely. And I mean, You gotta love it, right? So what's some words of wisdom that you can give to some young actors out there of maybe the do's and don'ts? What have you seen?
I would just say always be prepared.
Mm.
That's lines, character work, and a flexibility to play. Acting is a job where it's a trade. It's no different from carpentry. It's no different from building. It's no different from plumbing. It's you get better by doing, and you got to have this willingness to play and this preparedness to have all your tools to play with them. And that's when I was in university and one of my roommates was having trouble with a scene. I'd always tell her, "You've done the work. You're memorized. You've done your character work. Sit in it. Let yourself play." We are blessed with this ability to essentially play with Lego. And you're only good at it if you've done your work beforehand and play. And also being a nice person is also an important part of the whole project.
Yes.
One of the first things I was taught in Australia by a teacher was 80% of your paycheck is your personality.
Mm.
People don't want to work with bad people. And like I said, I'm going to always refer to how good the cast was and how much we got along with each other. But all the cast were lovely people. And that allowed us to play. And it also helped we all were prepared. But it allowed us to play and just push and pull. That's more than a few words. I got a bit too into it. But
no, that's
willingness to play. Those are my two major ones. And be a nice person.
Yeah. Be prepared, willingness to play, and be a nice person. I love it. I mean, it's simple, it's concise, but it's absolutely perfect. And so before I let you go this evening, what is coming forward? I know that The Death of Caesar is a project that you're going to be spending a lot of time on. Are there other projects that we should be looking for? I mean, if you can't tell us anything, we understand, but I just want to ask the question.
I'm pretty sure Cheap Rent is still in pre-production. It's another amazing script by Maegan and Heather. It's this beautiful story of this apartment building with all these eclectic and strange characters. I'm scrolling through my memory to try to. I'm terrible with names. I'm trying to remember character names. I know that my character Joe is a bartender who has very little patience for people. Another character whose name I cannot remember for the life of me. He is an aspiring actor who goes method with all his characters. So we see him dressed as Abraham Lincoln, and then later in the episode, he becomes a therapist. I think is the only way to describe what he does. And so that should be coming in the pipeline. I think we have another reading coming up. And that should be very exciting. The Death of Caesar is going to be shooting very soon. Excited about that. And I think those are the only two I can talk about.
Okay.
Believe anyway. I'm always doing theater. I'm cast in a production of Romeo and Juliet as Romeo.
Oh, nice.
So that's a dream of mine. So that should be fun. If you guys are in LA, the Classical Theatre Lab, it's a beautiful theater company. They do some of the best classical theater I've ever experienced. That should be coming up. But outside of that, I think that's all I can talk about.
Well, and that's wonderful. You read my mind, because I was going to ask you, out of all the theater productions and all the great network running shows out there right now, what is your dream project?
Ooh, I have two major dreams of mine. And none of these are theater based. I've done a lot of theater and I will always do theater. So again, if anyone's in LA, come watch me do some theater. It's fun. I would love to be the second Australian James Bond. That's a dream of mine. I grew up with it. It's a classic. You can't do wrong with them. Haven't aged great, the old ones, but I still love them. And
True.
I would love to do a Star Trek show.
Oh wow.
I grew up on media like Star Trek, and I don't know, it's again, I haven't seen any series that does it wrong. Like it'd be awesome. But yeah.
Yeah, well, those are some great projects. Well, you put it out there. Johnny Austen's available. Come on, Star Trek, let's go. Well, Johnny, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's really been a pleasure getting to know you. And you're so grounded and genuine and authentic. And I've had a really good time tonight.
I have as well. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right, we'll see you again soon. And
Hopefully.
Can't wait to see Broke AF, Cheap Rent, and oh my gosh, and so many more. The potato puppetry. Like my mind is just going in all different places. It's so much visual, right? Love it. All right, take care.
Thank you so much. Bye.
You're welcome. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. I really love to see all the comments that we got on the side, and you guys popping in and out. It's wonderful. And as always, we are blessed. You are blessed. Mwah. I love you, and stay tuned for another great show. Take care now. Johnny, thank you. We are no longer